You're watching a film called Wild Youth from 1960. The story follows two fugitives from a New Mexico prison farm and a 16-year-old farm girl who go on the run together. When their beat-up old jalopy breaks down, they hitch a ride with a drug dealer and murderer and his heroin-addicted girlfriend Madge. Madge is played by the beautiful Carol Ohmart. Carol's journey to stardom began early. She was singing on TV at age 12, won Miss Utah at 19, and went on to have a successful modeling career, early television roles, Broadway, and eventually films. However, behind the glamour, she endured a turbulent relationship with her mother. In the early 1970s, due to various personal issues, she left acting, changed her name, and lived anonymously for the rest of her life. She was born Amelia Carol Ohmart on June 3, 1927 in Salt Lake City, Utah. She was the daughter of Thomas C. Ohmart, a failed actor who went into dentistry, and Merl Ohmart. Carol Ohmart is of Egyptian-Irish Alsatian descent. Her family was originally Omar, and the H&T were acquired when the family migrated from Egypt to Europe and thence to the United States. She grew up a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. Carol won a national baby contest at age 1. Billed as Baby Carol, she made her stage debut in her uncle's act at age 3, wearing an outfit devised by Merl, a black derby, tights, and a small cane. Carol's mother, Merl Ohmart, is one of 5 children of a Salt Lake City Latter-day Saints family. She was married to Dr. Thomas Carlyle Ohmart, who was an unsuccessful actor and took up dentistry late in life. Their marriage was a turbulent one, the couple having separated 14 times before they were finally divorced. This reflected upon Carol, and by their constantly moving around, she had attended 15 schools in 5 cities by the time she graduated from high school. Although she lived with her mother, their relationship was never a good one. Until I became of legal age, I was terrorized. It was hammered into me that God's command was to love your mother or God will kill you. Merl and her daughter moved constantly, Salt Lake City, Seattle, San Francisco, Spokane. By the time she graduated from high school in 1944, Carol had attended more than a dozen schools. Merl often locked Carol into a closet with an empty tomato juice can if she had to go relieve herself. Once, after Carol was locked away for what seemed like days, her mother returned and laughingly explained, "Oh, I forgot all about you." At school, a teacher's concern over Carol's thick, long stockings led to a school nurse's discovery of scars and open wounds on the girl's legs from lashings. According to family members, theirs was a dark, twisted relationship in which Merl could alternately shower adulation on her daughter, then abuse her. By the time she was 7 years old, Carol had won several essay and photo contests and, living in Seattle at the time, had her own business called Carol's Gift Mart. Her first interest was dramatics, but she soon turned to the singing field and has appeared variously on air programs and as a vocalist with musical groups, including the Serenaders and Jan Gerber's band. Singing for the Red Cross, USO, and war bond activities, she has appeared before thousands and thousands of soldiers, being well received. Carol, a native Salt Laker, was born on June 3, 1927. She has lived in Seattle, Spokane, and Reno, and at age 11 was a reporter for the Post-Intelligencer in Seattle. Although writing was her first love, Carol now plans to make singing her career. The good reviews for Carol's acting began at an early age, like this one for a high school play, Try It with Alice. And Carol Ohmart was as lovely a fiancée as ever turned down an anxious lover. In September of 1944, when Carol was auditioning for the Deseret Theater, she heard that Orson Welles had been bumped off an airplane during a stopover in Salt Lake City and couldn't resist the opportunity to meet the big star. Miss Ohmart's statistics are eyes blue, hair blonde, height 5'7", weight 120, bust 36.5, waist 23, and hips 36. Salt Lake radio singer back from the Northwest. Miss Amelia Carol Ohmart, 17-year-old vocalist, who was the daughter of Mrs. Merl Ohmart, 653 Marquia Avenue, has recently returned from a year in Spokane, Washington, where she became known in the radio field both as a singer and dramatic reader. In Spokane, she won Superior Rating in a national music contest and also one of the soloists in the LDS Church Choir. Miss Ohmart lent her voice for the entertainment of servicemen. Throughout high school, she both acted and appeared as a singer. Then, in 1944, she entered the Miss Utah contest and was runner-up. She would try again the following year, and this time with better results. The 17-year-old beauty won the title. In 1945, she was a singer at a club called Coconut Grove, and in November of 1945, she was the Utah Celery Week Queen. The next step for Miss Utah was the Miss America contest. She finished 4th runner-up. However, there was something the press noticed, and it was widely reported. A more Minution's coffee, the blonde Salt Lake City girl consumed 6 roses, petal by petal, before walking out on the convention hall stage Saturday night. The press made a big deal of her eating flowers. Years later, she explained, "I was nervous and was holding the roses during the final judging," she said in Salt Lake City this week. "It was an honest accident, but it gained so much attention that I decided to go ahead with the publicity and eat some more." "I intended to use my scholarship for a course at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York," she said, "but I think I'll take private tutoring so I can take the best of the contracts that are being offered to me." Miss Utah 1946 Carol Ohmart, $1,500 scholarship. She is being coached for radio singing by Ruth Cleary in New York, and excellent reports have been received regarding her progress. In 1947, comic strip artist Milton Caniff created a new comic called Steve Canyon, and he used Carol as a model for his character, Copper Clayhorn. I've always had faith in myself, though for a long time nobody seemed to agree with me. This fall I am to sing on my own weekly television show on Hit Parade with some masculine vocalists teaming up. I sing blues and rhythmic songs. I am also to have the lead movie role in New York Confidential, to be produced by a private company, The Marathon. People speak to me as a model, but I really am not. I'm aiming for a good dramatic role on the Broadway stage. Of course, I've done modeling. In 1949, she married Kenneth J. Grossman, a radio actor who went by the name of Kenneth Grayson. The marriage would last about 2 years. Later that year, she joined the cast of a TV show called Versatile Varieties. Young fans of lovely blonde Carol Ohmart, former Miss Utah, broke into her apartment and stole her engraved watch, some pictures of her, and some candy. They left valuable jewelry, cash, and expensive household items. Easter charade. The girl who was making like a chicken with all her eggs in one basket is Carol Ohmart, a familiar figure to Channel 5 viewers who catch WBA-TV's Lights Out at 8 p.m. Mondays. She has also appeared in other NBC network productions. For Miss Ohmart, her past 5 years have been topped with 2 successful years of New York television, including 300 shows. She considers herself lucky. Returning to New York City soon, she will be in a Broadway production of King Lear, marking her debut on the legitimate stage. Before going to New York, she plans a half-vacation, half-business trip to Hollywood to check into motion picture possibilities. And of all things Carol was involved in, she also had time to work as a spy. Carol was one of 5 spies sent out on a mission by the Mystery Writers of America, Inc., into whose tiny pink ears the press agent had muttered the suggestion that New York City was likely vulnerable to an espionage operation. Apparently, this group was trying to see if New York citizens were talking too much about national secrets. She even wrote an article about her experiences. I planted a bomb in a vital power plant, obtained the blueprints to LaGuardia Airport and the Holland Tunnel, and learned a secret Navy ship destination on one casual day of finding out just how vulnerable New York City might be to an enemy agent. The only credential I had was my cabaret singer's license. I told anybody who asked me that it was a press card. It doesn't look particularly like a press card, but to make sure I pasted a picture of a kangaroo on top of my own picture. Carol landed a part in the play Kismet, in which she played a slave girl, but she was also the understudy for the play's star. The thrill of my life was when I was understudying Joan Diener in Kismet, says Carol, and I was able to get on the stage for this leading role 3 times. Busty Joan Diener's busty Kismet understudy Carol Ohmart left the show. Carol left the play because Carmel Myers, the silent film star, whose husband is Paramount biggie Al Swalberg, saw her in the play and convinced her to travel to Hollywood. She was given a screen test at Paramount, but then... "I shall never forget my first 2 days in Hollywood," said the talented young actress, "as the first was my test at Paramount Studios, and the second was my sudden entrance into the Cedars of Lebanon Hospital for major surgery. The day after, she was alone in her apartment taking a shower when she suddenly took ill. She knew she was going to collapse. I stumbled and crawled to the phone and told the desk clerk to get me some help quick, and then I passed out. The desk clerk got her an ambulance, which rushed her to the hospital. I never have thanked that clerk because I've been too embarrassed to look him in the eye ever since he found me sprawled out all nude and unconscious," she said. What had happened was she had an emergency appendectomy. "The first thing I heard when I came out of the anesthesia was that I had passed my screen test and had a contract with Paramount." Starer for Ohmart. Carol Ohmart, radio and television actress recently on stage in Kismet, will make her movie debut as a star in The Kiss-Off, dealing with a wicked woman, a jewel thief, and murder. Directed by Michael Curtiz, The Kiss-Off would be renamed Too Late My Love, and finally it would be called The Scarlet Hour. Carol received star billing, and it was the start of what many assumed would be a promising acting career. New orchid named for film actress. Carol Ohmart stands beside the first flowering of the Cymbidium, Carol Ohmart, a new orchid named after her. Miss Ohmart's first film will be Too Late My Love. Yul Brynner spends a lot of his time watching Carol Ohmart act in Too Late My Love, applauding her after every scene and adding, "I've never seen so much talent in one person." The press began referring to her as the female Marlon Brando. Director Michael Curtiz says the same thing in a different way. "She's a female tiger just recently out of the jungle." But according to Carol, Curtiz treated her horribly, and Humphrey Bogart, David Niven, Yul Brynner, and others arrived on the set one time to support her. And the film, in Carol's opinion, was all wrong for her. "It was the wrong vehicle to launch me as a star," Ohmart said. "Frank Tashlin, one of the film's 3 screenwriters, told me that it had been earlier turned down by Barbara Stanwyck. Foolishly, Paramount let its new leading lady portray a lush, an adulterous wife, and a suicide by the film's end. Look at the difference between that and Audrey Hepburn, who played a princess in her first film, Roman Holiday, or Shirley MacLaine, who was allowed to be kooky and funny, The Trouble with Harry. I had to be elegant and aloof. I saw it happening, but what could I do about it?" In July of 1955, Carol appeared in Life magazine. Incidentally, the Carol Ohmart luncheon, eating so far only by its namesake, is as follows: 1 ripe banana, followed by a few slices of cucumber, a raw carrot, a raw potato — she likes raw potatoes for breakfast — 3 pieces of celery, a green pepper, Swiesback, and fresh pomegranate juice. "I guess you might call me a food faddist," she commented in a classical understatement. For her next film, she was loaned out to United Artists to star with Anthony Quinn in the film originally titled Step Down to Danger, but would be released as The Wild Party. Meanwhile, almost a year and a half after her first movie was done filming, it still had not been released. "I can't understand why Paramount, her home studio, hasn't released my picture," she pouted during lunch. "I finished the film The Scarlet Hour for them last August, and they still haven't said a word about it. My other picture, Step Down to Terror, was made for Sidney Harmon, an independent producer, and it may be released first. Meanwhile, they call me a star, but no one can prove it." Finally, in March of 1956, The Scarlet Hour was released.
Now give me a cigarette, darling.
Sure. Anything you want.
Anything?
Oh, darling, I love you. You don't know how much I love you.
Get down out of sight.
Everything was programmed for me. I was put in the star category from the start. I entered through the Cecil B. DeMille gate. Bing Crosby and Bob Hope used that gate. I wasn't making their salary. She made about $500 a week her first year, but I was paid more than a contract player who had to use the less conspicuous entrance. The studio also told me who to date and what to wear. Once I was told to date Hugh O'Brien. He knew how to play the game and told the press, "She's like perfume, we should bottle her." I instead said, "I'd rather be home reading a book." One Sunday I threw on my sweats and went out to the grocery store. A few hours later I got a call from Y. Frank, Freeman, Paramount president, himself saying I left my house without being dressed like a star. Carol Ohmart. I'm looking for a man who must be a better person than I in every way, emotionally and intellectually. If I find such a man and he's an actor, so much the better. She must have found just the type of man she was looking for, because in November of 1956, she married William Strange, better known as the TV actor William Wade Preston. In Hollywood, I had all this public adulation, but no one to hold my hand. A guy might send me flowers or take me dancing, but then whisper in my ear, "Take my script to Paramount." I was lonely until I met this tall blonde cowboy, and my heart went boom boom. While he took part in school plays, he had no ambition to become an actor until he shared a plane seat with a Hollywood agent on a short trip to San Francisco. The agent introduced him to film actress Carol Ohmart, who was to teach him acting. Wade and Carol were married about a year later and now live in Malibu Beach, where she gives him drama lessons and he teaches her swimming and horseback riding. By this time, however, Carol had enough with Paramount. Because she doesn't make enough money nor enough pictures, Carol Ohmart wants out of her Paramount contract. And by January of 1957, Carol and Paramount parted ways. Once out, Carol moved into television, but she resisted the offers for her own series. Carol Ohmart, now at Warner Brothers for Born Reckless, is turning down all offers to star in her own television series. Carol says the reason she won't go into teleseries is because her husband, Wade Preston, is now starring in Warner's Cult 45 TV series. "I'd hate to have our marriage end up with us having to write notes to each other," Carol explains. "When you work on a TV series, you're on the go all week, and sometimes you don't get home till midnight. I'll let Wade carry the ball." Carol gave up her career to be a good housewife, but that didn't work out so well. The talented actress left acting a year ago to concentrate on being a housewife to husband actor Wade Preston, star of the Warner's popular Cult 45 television series. "I learned how to cook and that beds don't make themselves," she said. In the meantime, it seems Carol inherited a 350-acre ranch, 70 heads of cattle, and a grocery store in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I could find no information about whatever happened to that inheritance or what became of the ranch. After taking some time off to concentrate on her marriage, and almost 2 years after her last film at Paramount, Carol accepted an offer at Warner Brothers to appear in the Mamie Van Doren vehicle Born Reckless.
Tonight, Kelly, baby. Only tonight, Liz sees that you behave. That you're nice to Liz. That's for not being nice to Liz.
During the making of that film, Carol discovered that there was a problem with her making a Western. Carol Ohmart gets accent back. Carol Ohmart, who was born in Utah, originally went to New York to become an actress. She fought a hard but winning battle to lose her Western accent. But at Warner Brothers, recently for a starring role in Born Reckless, Carol discovered, to her surprise, that the accent came back. Throughout the picture, Carol plays many scenes with cowboys, and their way of talking has rubbed off on her. I spent almost $1,000 going to a voice teacher to develop a cool Eastern speech, moans Carol. Now it's all gone out the window. By June of 1958, Carol and Wade's marriage was coming to an end. Wade Preston, star of the Warner's Cult 45 series, will shoot it out in the divorce court with his wife, actress Carol Ohmart. She's a former Miss Utah. She testified that Preston, whom she had married in November 1956, was given to staying out late at night, sometimes not coming home until after daybreak. Finally, I demanded an explanation, she said. He became very violent, kicking in the TV set, smashing furniture and mirrors, and generally wrecking the place. Miss Ohmart won a cash settlement in lieu of alimony, but would not disclose the amount, nor would she say where she lives. Carol Ohmart, back in movies after 2 years, during which time she had got married and divorced, gives the most unusual explanation yet for the breakup of a Hollywood marriage. I forgot acting and tried too hard to be a wife, she admits, and that did it. Everything seemed wonderful one day, Carol recalls. Then the next, it wasn't. I don't know what happened, and I still don't. Some of the greatest acting I've ever seen was done by housewives listening to their husband tell the same jokes a dozen times. It takes great acting to laugh at a joke you've heard that many times. Yet, even after the divorce, I plan to continue dating him, she says, because as long as we aren't married, I'm sure we can get along. With the unhappiness of her divorce from TV actor William Strange behind her, Carol Ohmart is concentrating on a career that's taken a big upsurge. She stands a good chance of landing the lead with John Wayne and possibly Bill Holden in The Horse Soldiers, and she's definitely set as Vincent Price's leading lady in The House on Haunted Hill for Allied Artists. Carol started off with a tremendous publicity campaign at Paramount. Maybe it was too big a splurge because, as pretty as Carol is, her picture didn't live up to the hoopla. She was about willing to drop out of films at the time of her marriage to Strange, but with the marriage on the rocks, she wants to try again. This time on merit, not publicity.
Stu, I'm so tired. I'd give anything in the world if I could just stop running for a little while. You'll stay with me, won't you? Promise me you'll stay with me.
I won't leave you.
I love you, Stu. I love you.
Have some. You'll enjoy the party more. Go on.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million, tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all.
After House on Haunted Hill, Carol began doing more TV than films, with only the occasional film role. I realized I had a big decision to make. But I loved TV and wanted a chance to play all kinds of roles, instead of just parts that a studio would have me do. So I asked for and received my release in order to freelance on television, she said reminiscently.
Like, say, some dinner and maybe a little entertainment?
I really shouldn't. You know, if the boss ever found out, he'd fire me.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. If he fires you, I'll buy the joint and we'll fire him.
Okay. He's coming here in just a minute. But you know that, of course.
Yes, I know that.
If I call him in and send him away, I'll be without an escort for supper. Would you take his place, Marshal?
Freelance TV, she said, is comparable to a repertory company of yesteryear. I've played everything from light comedy roles to murderesses. I played the mother of a 17-year-old once, Miss Ohmart is just 27, and followed that by portraying a 19-year-old girl.
Sounds like you're talking about a prize cow. Besides, don't you think you should call me Muriel?
What? Muriel. That's much better. Now, let me try this.
You're a little late. The police were here this morning. Are you the mop-up man?
Sort of.
Private detective?
My name's Richard Diamond. I was hired by Joyce Nugent.
All right, Mr. Diamond, what is it you want to know? I was just out walking, and I felt faint, and I walked into the American Hotel, and I heard a shot, and I fainted, and that's all I can remember.
She also tried her hand on the stage. Ohmart gets Castro. Carol Ohmart has been set for the feminine lead in Julius Castro, slated for a Broadway bow this fall. Carol Ohmart doesn't know whether to feel pleased or insulted. A Mississippi riverboat captain wrote that he's renaming his barge after her. Carol Ohmart worked hard to become a full-fledged movie star at Paramount for 7 years, but never made it. A legitimate movie star at last, Carol is signed on to play the movie mistress of a studio producer in Dore Sherry's play about Hollywood, Banderol. It opens at the Music Box in Manhattan October 9th, after a Philadelphia tryout at the Forest beginning September 17th. Carol Ohmart will have a big role in Banderol, a new play coming to town October 9th. She will be making her Broadway debut in the drama. Sadly, her big Broadway debut never happened as her character was cut before the opening. Carol Ohmart, whose role in a Broadway show was sliced out of town, sighs, "I was a Hollywood star on Broadway about as long as I was a Hollywood star in Hollywood." The thing is, it really didn't matter as the play didn't last long. They tell us Hollywood's Carol Ohmart, who was written out of Dore Sherry's Banderol before the play opened here, wound up a winner. She got 4 weeks' pay as per her contract. The last of the cast got 1 week's notice.
Surely you would not deny a lady in distress?
Surely not. Make yourself comfortable.
You are a gentleman. Someday I hope you will come to Romania and avail yourself of my hospitality.
Where did you come from?
Came in to take a little nap, and I woke to, looks like little Glory is going to be in for a little luck for a change.
In 1974, after years of television work and the occasional film, Carol Ohmart made her final screen appearance in The Spectre of Edgar Allan Poe alongside Robert Walker Jr. and Cesar Romero. It would be the last time she acted. After that, she vanished, not just from the screen, but seemingly from the world itself. And this basically is where my story of Carol Ohmart ends. Her post-Hollywood years included personal struggles, including a vicious attack that led to a drug addiction, financial hardship, and trauma. Yet beneath it all, there seemed to be a persistent search for something deeper. If you're interested in learning more about this phase of her life, I've included links in the show notes below to the wonderful 1989 interview conducted by Gregg Barrios. Here are a few excerpts from that interview I thought of interest. Carol Ohmart has been out of my life for 10 years, she told Barrios. I have a new name, a new life. It would be overwhelming to face up to that again. Shortly after their first conversation, she shared this moment of reflection. A few days after we talked on the phone, I woke up in the middle of the night, stretched my arms upward and said, "Thank God, after 58 years, I'm free." When asked whether she had forgiven her mother, she replied, "Yes, I forgave her, but I haven't forgotten. How could I? I tried to be a dutiful daughter. I wrote her all these hundreds of letters, but she never let me live my own life. She tried to live through me. I appreciated her supporting me through the lean years, but she wasn't doing it for me. It was for her own selfish ends, to keep me taking orders." Things began to change when she met Bill, a retired fireman who had become her mother's upstairs neighbor. "I had never met anybody like him," Ohmart said. "He accepted me for me and not what I'd been. That was new to me. He didn't make a big deal out of my physical problems. If we'd go for a walk and I had to sit and rest, he was there for me. We grew closer. Out of the blue, he said, 'Let's get married.' I thought about it for a couple of days and said, 'Okay.' When Ohmart was taken off with Bill, she hissed at her mother, 'You'll never see me alive again.'" Reflecting on her decision to leave Hollywood, Ohmart said, "When I left Hollywood back in the 1970s, I didn't want to slam the door and padlock it," Ohmart said. I was happy there in the early years. I was a star and flamboyant. I was successful and popular. I left because I was tired and wanted to find me. I spent a decade being a quiet, ordinary person. I found my peace, my secret garden. Carol changed her name a couple of times after leaving the entertainment industry and, as far as I know, lived a quiet, happy life with Bill, whose real name was William John Triberth Jr. Carol Ohmart died of natural causes on January 1, 2002 in Fort Collins, Colorado, at the age of 74. Her death certificate listed her name as Carrie Ohmart's son Triberth.